Hey everyone, welcome back to Story Behind the Story. I'm your host, Courtney Rowe, and with me I have the beautiful Sammie. And this is sadly the last week of Story Behind the Story until next year. So to kind of close things off, I'm going to be asking you questions that don't necessarily pertain to your story, but rather just your year overall and what that's been like on the Missourian. So, what would you say this semester has been like for you in regards to your stories?
This semester has been a huge learning experience because I went from being a news reporter to the campus news editor. And so not only was I taking on that leadership position, I was writing more stories every single week. I was writing 3 or 4 stories rather than just 2. And so I think I learned a lot about, time management sounds really generic, but I learned a lot about how to turn around a quality story really quickly and trust my journalistic instinct when it comes to writing instead of slaving over a story for hours and hours and hours and then not coming in with anything. Trusting that I know how to write and write well, even on a deadline.
For sure. So you have had a lot more stories, like you said. Out of all of those, which has been your favorite story this semester?
I've liked a lot of stories this semester, but I think my favorite was the story about the celebration of Beatty and Sue Owens because I learned so much about the university and its history through them, and it was really cool to see kind of 2 generations of presidents interact with each other with Beatty Owens and Dr. J, and get to talk to Mrs. J and Sue Owens about what it's like to be a first lady of the university. And that story just felt like a more holistic approach to story writing because you had the history and the current married together.
So now on the other end, what has been the hardest story that you've written this year?
Easily the hardest story was I wrote a story about the university's care and concern policy, which has to do in the cases that I talked about with students dealing with mental health issues and suicide attempts. And that story was really challenging, not only from the legal aspect of like taking apart a contract and like figuring out what it actually means and asking the administration tough questions about what that policy means, but also talking to students about the really negative life experiences that they've had while at university and how they've dealt with those and what they did to overcome that and how much I connected to those people while I was interviewing them. That was really heart-wrenching, but I feel like I learned a lot about students on our campus through writing that story, so I think it was worth it.
For sure. So going kind of off of that, what would you say is the biggest thing that you've learned this semester?
I think what I said earlier, trusting myself. I have always had a lot of insecurity, not only in my personal life, but also in my work. And I've learned to trust that I have journalistic integrity and that I can follow my journalistic instincts and that as long as I'm truly on the side of truth, that I'm doing something good. Trusting that gut feeling more has brought me a lot more comfort and confidence.
Oh, love that. So kind of looking at everything you've done in newspaper this semester, what has been your favorite memory thus far?
Easily my favorite memory was I got to go to Washington, D.C. on a trip to go to a journalism convention, and we were pacemaker finalists at the Missourian, and it was amazing. And we just had a lot of really good learning experiences, both at the conference and then after the conference would end for the day, going out and seeing all the monuments, seeing the National Monument, the White House, seeing Congress. It was so surreal to feel like you were in the place where things happen. And there's just such an electric feeling about that city, so getting to travel and see all that and then meet like reporters from the Washington Post was just so surreal, and I loved it so much.
I was definitely jealous looking at all those pictures of you guys like by the White House and by the monuments, so I'm glad it was a very fun experience. Could you see yourself working in Washington, D.C. at some point?
I think so. I'm really open to wherever my career takes me, but I can definitely see that being a place where I work, even if it's just for a short time.
So now kind of as far as where your future is taking you, we are moving into the new year, a new semester. What do you see yourself producing as far as stories go, or what do you see yourself doing in newspaper next semester?
One of the things that I have kind of been working on behind the scenes, there's been a lot of changes to DEI this year, and I've been working on digging into more of what's really happened, why did they create DEI, what has happened with their purpose, how has that changed, all the staffing changes, and now it's under the provost's office, it feels like everything has changed. And so I am looking forward to writing something really in-depth and really getting to the meat of what's happened in that department And so look forward to that next semester.
For sure. Always looking forward to the stories that you have. Thank you so much. It's really been such a fun experience sitting down with you every week or every other week and, being able to talk to you and get closer to you. So I really appreciate everything that you've been doing for me. And I appreciate all of you for tuning in, sticking throughout the entire semester. So as always, I will see you guys later.